All right, welcome back to the JFK assassination video. This is video number 92. Yeah, 92. And so we're going to go back on the JFK timeline. And we were, a long time ago, we were talking about Aubrey Wright. And he was the ambulance driver. He's the one that went and picked up the epileptic that happened right before um, at Houston Home, right before uh, the limousine went by, and then also um, he also assisted in getting the casket and all that stuff, and putting the body in this casket and transporting it out to a hearse or ambulance to take it to Air Force One. All right, so this is his video. We're gonna listen to this real quick and see what we have here. And this is from Vince Palamara.
So, yeah, in your opinion, was it a small entrance wound? Was it a small entrance wound, or do you think it was an entrance wound?
The throat? No, in my opinion, I think it's where a bullet come out.
You think it's where the okay, so you think it's an exit wound, but as far as the back of the head, that appears to be gone to you, or?
Yeah, it was down.
Oh, okay. Where? Where? Here?
Oh, right back. I picked the head up off thing here, I could feel it right quick. And right almost in the middle of the back of the head, just the side.
It's hard to hear the audio. You can't really hear what Vince Palamara is asking, but what he's basically asking Aubrey Wright is, when you looked at the president's head, where did you see the hole, the exit, the big hole? Because everybody knows when a bullet goes in, it leaves a smaller hole, and then when it exits, there's the bigger hole. He said the bigger hole was in the back of the head. You can't have a big hole in the back of the head if the shot is coming from the back, behind the head. So basically, that means that Kennedy was shot, just like in the video, in the front, probably about right here, and then it blew out the back of the head. That's essentially jiving with what the majority of the Dallas doctors said also.
Wow. And I was telling him, this is amazing. You know, Mr. Wright was interviewed by David Lipton for the Best Evidence video. He was on hard copy, but never was asked that one question that we've all been dying to know. That's just amazing. So you learn something every day. That's it.
I thought it was mentioned on the radio.
Yeah. No, like I said, it does get as far as saying you felt the back of the head and you lifted him up, but you never actually, so there's no one actually came out and asked you, unless that was ended and died. That's great. Okay, great.
Great food. Big one, Braden. Well, I'll tell you right now.
Right now. Okay. And the pictures that show that appear to show the head still intact.
Yeah, well,
The pictures appear to show the head still intact with an entrance wound.
well, I think what it is pictures. It's all hair back.
Hair back there.
I think that's what it is. And I've talked to several people who's in on the archives. And everything, and confirming what it looked like it did. The other one I didn't really see because he was laying on his back, all the blood had drained down to it. In the back, it's started blue and everything.
Oh, here you go.
And I didn't notice the bullet wound from the shoulder, each one back.
We had argued this morning about whether there's two holes or one in the back. Do you have this?
Well, I didn't notice it. Like I say, he's been laying in blood, that motion.
You thought this one was an entrance wound?
So, just to kind of jump ahead here, it's really hard to hear the audio, but it seems to me that if you look at the sequence of the firings, that and you watch the movements in the limousine before it goes behind the traffic sign, it seems to me that there's a shot. And because you see Kennedy waving, and you see the little girl to the limousine's left, it would be to our right in the video. and she's running along, and then she stops right at the same time that Kennedy stops waving, and then he starts to turn like he's going to look backwards. And then you also see Governor Conley kind of start to do the same thing. And then they go behind the sign, and when they come out from the sign, Kennedy's grabbing up, his arms are going up, whether he's grabbing at his throat or something's going on there. Now, if you put that together with Lansdale's information, the Secret Service agent that said he found a what we're calling the magic bullet, he found it right behind where Kennedy's shoulders had been, on the lip of the seat, and where they put the frame of the bubble top. Okay, so apparently, what happened is that there's a shot. It bounces off, goes in the grass somewhere. It's not the same one that hits Tague because Tague is already aware of shots. And then later on, after the shots, at the end of the shots, he's hit, according to him. Okay. So this shot is probably the one they found. The lady saw the shot in the grass there. Now, how you could miss on the first shot, I'm not quite sure. And then hit on the second and the third, whatever, I'm not sure. But so that's one shot. And then Kennedy is hit in the throat. But the question with the throat shot is, where's the exit with the throat shot? So I'm not sure exactly about the throat shot. It could be that was a tracheotomy, but I heard nothing from the doctors saying that was a tracheotomy that was performed. Who knows? Um, so obviously we got one shot goes off, a second shot hits Kennedy in the back, and maybe the charge doesn't have enough charge in it, and it obviously hits him in the back, causes that hole, and then in the motion when he's hit again, he hits up against the seat as he's thrown violently backwards. That pops that shot out, and that is the bullet that Lansdale finds, puts in his pocket, which is absolutely insane. Why anyone would do that and then put on the stretcher at Kennedy's body? That's totally insane. Maybe it's the shock, um, an experience, I don't know, but nobody in their right mind nowadays would mess with the crime scene. Pick up a bullet, pick up bullet fragments and put them back down in the spot. Nobody would do that nowadays. They would leave everything. And if anyone did do that, maybe that also explains why he didn't last more than a year after that and quit. He realized he had fucked up. And so, okay, so you got the one shot. There's rumors that a shot had bounced off a sign of a lamppost or something like that. So that's one. Another one possibly hits Kennedy in the neck. Another one hits him in his back. When he comes out from behind the sign, his arms are up. Okay. Then you see um, Governor Conley start to turn, and it's obviously he's not hit by the same shot. Okay, it doesn't happen, and then he reacts to a shot because he's turning around. He reacts to a shot. He's hit by one, two, three, maybe the fourth shot, the third of the fourth shot. Okay, and then the Secret Service agent says that there were shots coming into the car like bees all over the place. So there's possibly other shots. You see someone dive to the ground, approximately where they find the ground mole, where the other lady finds the shot. So maybe that's a fifth or sixth shot. And then finally, it seems like Kennedy is hit in the head with two shots to me, because there's boom boom like that is boom when he's hit, and then maybe one hits from the back and one hits from the front simultaneously, and then you see that little flap on the side of the head. So this little flap, approximately right here, is where the it's what the Warren Commission says is that the bullet came in. Kennedy was leaning, looking down. The bullet came in, went into the skull, and then popped out while he was leaning down and blew open that fragment. But if you look at the video of the Zapruder film, it's pretty obviously that's not what happened, because there's a flap that goes that way. And then something happens right about here, and he's blown backwards. So this little flap pops open, leans this way, and then something else happens right about here, and then he's blown backwards, and that's where the other shell that's in his back supposedly pops out. So there's like another, I think, two shots there. That's just my opinion. But there's no way that a shot coming from this direction hitting here is going to make this flap pop up. Another thing also that tells you that this flap that pops up doesn't create the spray behind him and onto the trunk and onto the policeman, and it had to be from the back, just like Aubrey Wright is saying. Okay, is that Mrs. Kennedy jumps up. Well, when Kennedy falls into her arms, she's looking straight into the hole in the back of his head. She looks back, pops onto the trunk, reaches out to grab a piece of his skull fragment. We know this because the doctor, one of the doctors in Parkland, said that while they were operating on Kennedy, she nudged him and gave him a piece of the skull fragment that, like, here, maybe you can put this back together with him, and maybe that'll save him, maybe make it work. But the only thing about the doctors and Aubrey Wright is that they don't mention this hole right here, which you obviously see in the Zapruder film. Okay. Now, if a bullet had come from this direction and it was coming down like this, it would have popped out to his eye or be embedded in the brain somewhere. It wouldn't have gone. It wouldn't have gone down like this, changed directions, and started going like that, and then pop a flap that way. I, I'm not sure what that is, but there's obviously some kind of flap that's been pulled back this way, and then Aubrey Wright is saying there's a hole in the back of the head, opposite of where the forehead is here. So he's obviously hit in the forehead, approximately here, with a small hole, and then the bigger holes in the back. But we'll listen to a little bit more of what Aubrey Wright says here.
But you didn't notice the back wound at all? No, I didn't.
That's all right.
When we picked him up, we rolled him yesterday.
And that's ironic. You were involved in the pickup of the epileptic seizure deal in Plaza 2, 5 minutes before the assassination. Yeah.
There wasn't really an epileptic seizure. That's just the way it come out on the radio.
We need to start.
Okay. There we go. Yeah. So you were saying that with Vince McGuire, he passed away a little.
And I'm just going to make one more comment. All of this speculation, which is exactly what I'm doing, is speculation, would all be solved if we had Kennedy's brain, his skull. It'd be very, very simple. I, on YouTube, somehow got in this feed where I'm getting these feeds from these guys that go around Germany and Belgium, and they're doing archaeologies. Okay, they're digging up helmets and skulls and stuff like that that they're finding on the battlefield, and they're showing, you know, holes in the skulls. Like there's a helmet on the skull, or a skull buried with its helmet, and the hole in the helmet matches up with the hole in the skull, and it's very easy to figure out that was a gunshot. Okay, so if we had the skull, which we don't, because mysteriously, although I say not mysterious, no mystery why the president's brain, his skull, is missing. That's a key piece of evidence. That right there would have been destroyed, because you can't have the president's skull sitting in an archive somewhere for any person to take a look at, okay? Because it would be obvious what happened, okay? Especially any forensics experts. So they had to get rid of the skulls. That's exactly what they did. I would dare say that the X-rays and the photos that we have now are not even Kennedy. They're somebody else. You know, um, you know how why we don't have the the president's brain, the skull. I don't know, and how the doctors at not Parkland, but how the Boggs and whatever his name was, Boswell, whatever, who did the autopsy, how they could not stick a stick all the way through the probe and in the back, and then how they could say that that bullet went down into the back and then went back up and came out of the throat is absolutely incredible. I don't care if you hit the president anywhere below where the back end of the medulla oblongata, I guess that's what that's called, right at the back of the brain. If you hit the president anywhere below that, it's not coming out of the Adam's apple, my friends, because it has to be up. In order for an object, okay, to come out here, it has, and it's coming up from a sixth floor of a building. It has to hit at a higher location in the back of the neck, almost at the back of the skull, at the top of where the vertebrae is attached to the skull. It has to hit there in order to go down. And then the question is, where is that bullet? Now they're saying that bullet came out of there intact after passing through flesh and the vertebrae and all the bones of the Adam's apple, went down, is coming down like this, went down, then turned, went this way, went up, and then hit Connolly in the upper shoulder right here, and then continued to uh, go down and go into his wrist, and then go into his leg, where they never found that bullet. Okay, and then they find this one intact on the stretcher. So the only bullet they found was the one that Lansdale found that popped out of the back. It was sitting on the back of um, the seat there. So we've got a bullet that went in Kennedy's neck, supposedly, one or two bullets that went into his head, and then another bullet that went into Connolly's shoulder, wrist, and thigh. Now, did they all shatter? Completely shatter? Where are those bone fragments? Okay. Oh, excuse me. Where are the metal fragments from that? Um, it doesn't make any fucking sense that a bullet would remain intact. Matter of fact, um, I saw a video of I think the guy that was on the Warren Commission, and they gave him 100 bullets to go test, and they fired him into sheep and skulls and all kinds of stuff, and none of them remained intact. They were all shattered, bent, torn up, just going through one set of bones. Okay, like a cadaver bone. or a sheep bone, completely dented up, twisted up the bullet, or even broke it up. But yet, this one bullet, we're supposed to believe, went down, went into the neck of Kennedy, went through his vertebrae, went through his spinal cord, popped out of his neck, went down, turned, went up this way, came back, and then repositioned itself and went downward into Connolly's back, went through his shoulder blade, okay, then passed through his shoulder blade through his ribs, okay, then passed through that, went into his wrist bone, okay, and then my question is, when do you ever see Connolly with his left arm, his left wrist on his knee, on his leg? What we see is Connolly turned around, facing that way, just like he said, and with this arm, he's holding, I'm sorry, with this arm, the one that's shot, he's holding his white Stetson. You can clearly see it. Okay. So is his other arm down like this on his knee? I don't know. But I, it had to go. Even that doesn't make any sense because his arm is up. He's holding his white Stetson, I guess, with here. How can you hold the white Stetson hat up here and yet the it doesn't make any fucking sense. It's almost like Conley was hit by two or three different bullets because his white Stetson is up here. His body is turned. Okay. Somehow the bullet comes down, goes into his shoulder blade, goes into his wrist, and then comes back down and goes into his knee. That doesn't make a fucking bit of sense either. So there's a lot of very strange things going on there just with Connolly's body, okay? And so from the body and from the wounds, you can tell what happened and how many shots there were. Okay, but anyway,
A little while ago.
Several years ago.
Oh, okay.
He went to, they got one for back in Vietnam.
Oh, really? Oh.
I understand it. You know, they give him a lot of narcotics.
Oh, really? Did they used to call him a Peanuts McGuire? Was that his old? Oh, okay. How about,
all right, I'm going to stop there because it's really muddled. It's very difficult to see. I mean, come on, Palomera, you got some great stuff. Is it Palomera? Vince Palomera? Yeah, you got some great stuff, some great insights, but God, man, get a better damn camera. Use your phone next time. I'm sure this is an old video, but get some sound, okay? Because we can't hear anything. So this has got me thinking here, and I'm just kind of off the cuff. I really never plan these videos. I just watch the information and then I go from there. So what we're gonna do is take a look at the Zapruder film. Okay, I'm gonna pause and bring up the Zapruder film. All right, so let's take a look at this. So nothing I'm gonna say is nothing no one else has said. Okay, um, but let's just take a look at this. So you see this girl right here. You got the white top and the red dress. She sees Kennedy and she's excited. So watch her. She'll start running along the car, with the car. And then all of a sudden, she stops. And then when she stops, we're going to stop it. And then you can look at Kennedy. Well, this is not very clear. And you'll see that he's right here and he's waving. He stops waving. Okay. And the thing that always gets me about all these people right here is if you just heard a shot, none of these fucking people react. So let's see what happens here. If I just heard a shot, I'd be running my ass backwards, diving for the ground, but not one of these people react. Now, some people say they've been pasted on there, but I don't know. All right, so let's take a look here. The key is the girl. Watch the girl. We're going to go back. You see? Hold on. Now she stopped. You see? It's out of focus, but let's go back a little bit. You see, she's trotting along. You see that? We're going backwards here. She's trotting along, and then all of a sudden, she stops. You see Kennedy right here? He's kind of waving. Guys, it's not very clear. We've blown it up. Let's see if it's clear. Hold on. Go down. Nope, not any clear. Anyway, we'll work with this one. We'll try to look at another one here. But watch the girl. See, she's so important that Oliver Stone includes her in the movie because he knows the girl sets the time with his first shot right there. See, there's Kennedy. You can kind of see his arm is up, and then you see he's looking to the left, and then God, this is really blurry. Then you can kind of see Connolly, and now he's starting to look to the left. You can see his hat right there, and now they're going to go behind the freeway sign. And look, now one of these fuckers, it's like they're pasted on. They haven't reacted at all. The girl reacts. None of these people react. Very strange. All right, you see that? Now he's up. Okay. God, it's really, really unclear. Conley's here. He's turning to the right and looking. He's still holding this hat right there. This is when Kennedy is hit in the back. It's a weak charge on the gunpowder, so it didn't go all the way in. This is the one that pops out the back. Okay. All right. Let's see here. See if I can slow this up a little more. The playback speed. We'll do it at 1/4. You see, there's Conley. Look, his studs. He's holding his hat right there. So how is he getting? His hat is up here. How is he getting hit in the wrist when his wrist should be on his thigh, right? And here's our dark complexion man. He's holding up a hand and he's giving us some kind of signal. You got the umbrella man here. He's pumping the umbrella. And, I heard something about this that there's supposedly a guy that came forward and said he was the umbrella man and said it had to do with Chamberlain, you know, giving in peace in our time to Hitler and all this kind of stuff. I think it really is symbolic that now, my premise is that basically it was a combination of anti-Castro Cubans, which this is one of them right there. Okay, then they're mercenary guys hired by the CIA to train them and go into Cuba with them. Okay, and then you've got rogue CIA elements who didn't like Kennedy and his policies, especially in regards to Cuba and Vietnam. Thought he was being soft on the communists. Then you have people in the Defense Department, like Lansdale and other generals, Curtis LeMay, that they're very, very white wing. Also, Edwin Walker, they're in conflict with Kennedy. And then you've got CIA. Um, Dulles has been fired. Dulles, from what I understand, had a private house at Camp Peary, the CIA training base, and he was there, even though he was fired from the CIA. At the time Kennedy was killed, he was at his CIA Camp Peary house there. Everyone had some kind of excuse to be someplace else. Okay, and then you've got elements of the Secret Service that are sympathetic to the right wing cause. You've got elements of the mafia. Okay, there's not too many people involved in the mafia in this assassination. Okay, maybe one or two of the shooters were mafia types, but the rest were Cubans and these interpin mercenary guys. Okay, and then you've got um, elements of the FBI and the Secret Service, right wing elements that are involved in helping it. I believe Johnson was involved not extensively in planning, but definitely in the cover up. Okay. One thing he's afraid is that the CIA and these right wing Cubans are going to get him involved in forcing him to invade Cuba. Okay. And to that's going to lead to World War III. He even mentions that to Earl Warren that if we don't bottle this up and make it just you know Oswald, we could end up in World War III and hundreds of millions of people dying. So, but you see him. This is the dark complexion man. I believe it's this Cuban pilot. He eventually dies. I think he died in Guatemala or Nicaragua or something like that. You got this guy, but I think this umbrella has to do with air cover from the Bay of Pigs. So they're symbolically right in his face saying, "We're killing you. These are the people you abandoned. These are the people that are now killing you." Okay, the Cubans, the Bay of Pigs mercenaries, the people that went to prison and got out. Okay, that they felt betrayed. They were blamed by the CIA. The CIA told these Cubans it was Kennedy, but Kennedy wasn't going to be forced into a war that he didn't even know about. They pulled a schnickeroo on him. Okay, and so this is what I think it is. It's symbolic right there for everyone to see. Okay, no air cover. It's black. The umbrella is black because it's dark. There's no air cover. This is why we're killing you, Mr. Kennedy. This is the last thing he's going to see, where he get his head blown off. Okay, and then you've got this guy right here saying, "Okay, he's not down. Hit him again. Hit him again." And then you see these two guys, when everyone else is running. These two guys sit down on the or laying down or running or chasing people up the hill. These two guys sit down on the curb. They look. One of them has a radio. This guy here, he says something on the radio, puts it back in his pocket, and then they walk off in different directions. So I think that's what's going on there. Let's see what else happens here. So you see, there is Conley. He's obviously got his hat in his hand. If he's shot in the hand and it's on his knee, he can't be holding the hat up like that. Okay? There's Kennedy. He's shot in the back. I think he got shot in the neck and then he got shot in the back. And then we're going to see him get shot in the head right here. So you see these people, you see these guys, when he gets shot in the head, the splatter goes back and puts blood on their helmets and on their motorcycles and on the back of the car here. All right, so let's see. You see that? There's the flap. You see how the flap, it's not back here. The flap is right here. So how do you have a flap there? Something hit him back here and blew out the side portion of his head. And then something else, watch. There's going to be another shot. Watch. And it blows him backwards. See that? And then you see this. Okay, there's a better one. See, he's down right there. And there's something blasting forward because you see all the mist right there. It's blasting forward, and then they're riding into it. So there is a shot from the back, okay? And you see that flap right there? There's a shot from the back. And then a lot of people say that this shadow here was painted a whatever in. But see, then he heads backwards. You can see that flap hanging out right there. But I think he gets hit twice, almost simultaneously. One pushes him forward, the next one pushes him backwards. And when he went backwards like that, that's when the shell popped out. That might even be it right there. You see that? Did you see that pop out right there? That's the shell that Lansdale, whatever his name is, the Secret Service agent found. And let's see, where are we at here? 38 minutes. Let's go see if we can find a better version of that. Yeah, that's pretty crazy. You see, it's kind of blown up right there. All right. See, they've blown up on the car here, but the girl is the key. The little girl on the right, man, God, you can't. They've really blown up on it. You can't see anything. Wow, just really crap. You see, he's waving, and then he's not waving, and you see Conley straight up. Okay, now look, you see Conley straight up, and then Kennedy. You see, he's obviously hit. He's way over here. The bullet goes from right there, turns, goes this way, goes into Conley's back shoulder here. He's obviously not hit. Now, boom, you see he's hit. You see that? Completely different. Different shot. He's hit in the shoulder right there. But why? You know, if Kennedy is hit here and he goes backwards, how come Conley isn't? He's hit in the shoulder, doesn't spin him around or push him forward. Watch his body. Wait, did that hand just go up? Hold on. All right. Look, look at that. Did you see that? As soon as Kennedy gets here, there's the umbrella. The hand goes up. That's the dark complexion man. The signaling to the shooters. He's not dead yet. He's still up. Hit him again. You can obviously, you see, if Conley's been hit in the shoulder, why is he turning back to the right and then he just lays down and Nelly? Don't you think he would have been forced forward by a gunshot? Something's not right here. You see, you can obviously see he's hit. But how do you get hit from behind here when your shoulder is almost literally vertical? Almost literally vertical from the line of sight of the shot. That doesn't make any sense. It seems like if Connolly gets hit in the shoulder here, the bullet would have embedded into the door. You see, look, Connolly's not forced forward at all. He just lays back into his wife's arms right there. It's crazy. It's like he's hit from someplace else, not even behind. See, he just lays into his wife's arms right there. See, there's the driver. Look at that. That motherfucker. He's looking back instead of looking forward to drive. He's looking back, and then they're like, "Let's go." Look, he even looks back again. See that? Look at that. Twice the driver looks back. There's something that just passed right there. What was that? And boom. You see that? So he's got to be hit twice because the front right portion of his skull is blown out. That means a bullet hit from back here, but then he's thrown backwards. So how do you, if if you hit someone in the back there, it should push him forward, right? So I think he's hit by another bullet almost simultaneously right there that throws him backwards. And it makes the hole in the back of the head that we can't see here. Now watch Mrs. Kennedy. Boom. See that? And see, look, she's looking right into the hole in his head. See her mouth open, and she's like, "My God, his skull just got blown off onto the trunk." And so she's climbing onto the trunk to grab that piece of the skull. And see, Conley just lays down in his wife's arms right there. Doesn't make any fucking sense. You'd think that if they just got hit, that they would be zigzagging hit the accelerator, but would be zigzagging all over the fucking road, making it hard for them to hit him. See, she goes up onto the trunk, picks up the skull fragment, gets back in, and then was that Greer or whatever this, I can't remember his name. The Secret Service agent climbs up on the back there, and then gets on top of them, and then they're gone. So, totally insane. Never should happen. And Vince Palmera does a really good job of showing the protection when Kennedy went to other places with the Secret Service protection. And it shows that Kennedy was surrounded. Okay, they had motorcycles on each side. They had Secret Service on each side, Secret Service on the back. They had to remove all that protection so they could get a clear shot. And how do you remove that protection? Because that protection comes from the Secret Service. But what that tells you is that it only takes one guy, the head guy, in the Secret Service to be involved in the plot. Okay? So, I don't know. Definitely something not right there. All right, let's see what else we got on Aubrey Wright here. Hold on one second. All right, so I think this is an interview at Parkland of Aubrey Wright and his little coworker Peanut.
Ray, what brought you to Parkland Hospital in the first place? We picked up a patient on North Houston there, an epileptic, and
Yeah,
took him to Parkland. We was waiting for the patient to be
that's
signed
Aubrey
in
Wright,
at the time
I
everything
believe.
took place here.
What
It
happened?
sounds like him.
Well, first of all, these two men come running in. One of them had a large, what appeared to be a machine gun, and they was hollering for stretchers and cots and everything. And to me, it appeared that there was some lunacy or something. And immediately after that, the Vice President of the United States came in. He was very pale. Some Secret Service men was walking him in at the time.
And did the president come in?
Yes.
And then what did they do with the president?
They took him on back to one of the trumbull rooms in the emergency room there. Before the president come in, the governor, they brought him in first.
What happened after this?
Well, then the president come in and moved behind him, and after he come in, his wife was behind him, and they took them both of them, back to the trumbull room at Parkland there.
Can you give us any of the intimate details?
You mean after they brought him in?
Yes.
Well, of course, they run everyone out of the emergency room of the hospital completely on the first floor there, and they told a rider and I to stand by at the rear of our ambulance in case the president or someone had to be removed from the hospital to another hospital. And we stood by there until later on they come out and told us that we would have to help remove the remains into a casket.
Dennis, what happened to the hearse?
That's Peanut.
We were standing by there. One of the Secret Service men come up and told us that we would have to help putting the president into the casket and getting him to the airport. And at that time, right after he had told us that, well, Mr. O'Neill came up in our '64 Cadillac hearse, and we unloaded and took the casket into where the president was. And before we put the president in his casket, well, the president's wife took her wedding band. It looked to be like her wedding band off of her finger and put it on the president's and kissed his hand. And then he left, and we took him out and put him into the hearse. And one of the Secret Service men, well, about two or three of them got into the hearse and just drove off and left Mr. O'Neill and the rest of us just standing.
There you go. So nobody knows what happens to the president's body after that. They could have done whatever with it, dropped it off, stopped along the way with another body in a van, exchanged the bodies, and then put it on the plane. Who knows? So, in any kind of plot like this, it's essential that some members of the Secret Service, the president's protection has to be involved. Okay? Um, it's an age old thing, the Praetorian Guard for the Roman Emperor and stuff like that. But, all right, so we'll move on here. We got, 12 minutes? Let me see here. We got Officer J.B. Allen, and it says there's a 17 July 1964 Dallas police memo. Let's take a look at that. That might take us to the end here. What I'm trying to do is go through and put it in. If it has a time, put it in by time, and if it has a location, I put it in by location. Um, starting off on Maine, and then Houston, and then Elm. Wherever a witness was seen there, and then you can kind of get an idea of what was seen in order. But not always, because you have people um, that were over on Houston that ran over to Elm, and they saw other things there, or they filmed other things there. All right, so let's blow this up here if we can. This is from History Matters, and God, this is not very good. It says there's God, is there any way to blow this up without me blowing it up? Not very. No, probably not. Okay. All right. So let's even read this here. It says, J.W. Curie, Chief of Police, Subject Officer W.E. King's statement. Wait, hold on. I think we were talking about somebody else, right? Oh, J.B. Allen. Here we go. On 17 July 1964, it says, Sir, on 22 November 1963, I made a detail at the 9 a.m. at the downtown police department where we received instructions from Captain Lawrence, and I was assigned to the corner of Main and Houston and received instructions at the time to keep the traffic back, hold the crowd back, and watch for anything unusual or suspicious in the crowd and the buildings in our area, and to keep anybody from throwing at the car or cars. I reported to my assignment a few minutes before 10 a.m. At the time, I checked the crowd to see if anybody looked suspicious and looked over the building and the surrounding area and did not see anything that looked out of the ordinary. At approximately 12:15, a white male had an epileptic seizure on the west side in front of the esplanade of the 100 block of North Houston. I administered first aid and returned to my assignment at approximately 12:25. At the time the president passed, I was in the middle of Houston Street on the south side of Main, holding back the crowd, and I heard shots. I did not know where they came from. Respectively submitted J.D. Allen Patrolman Patrol Division. So that's pretty good. Just your meat and potatoes, basic kind of statement there. All right, it says at 12:15, Arnold Rowland sees the man on the sixth floor of the Texas School Book Depository holding a rifle, and he thinks is a Secret Service agent. In the far left-hand window, he also sees a dark-complexioned man, Negro, in the sniper's nest window. That's got to be a Cuban, right? So the interesting thing about this is that Oswald is seen at 12:20 on the second floor in the lunchroom. So he couldn't be on the 12 at 12:15 up on the sixth floor. Okay. So at 12:15, Roland saw a man with a high-powered rifle standing about 5 feet from the southwest corner. Now I didn't write these; I copied and pasted these, so I'm just reading this. Other side of the building from the sniper's nest, where it was argued Lee Harvey Oswald fired his rifle. He told the Warren Commission, "I noticed on the sixth floor of the building that there was a man back from the window, not hanging out the window. He was standing and holding a rifle. This appears to me to be a fairly high-powered rifle because of the scope and the relative portion of the scope to the rifle. The only problem was this is the window was raised up. If you stood at the window, no one could see anyone, okay? Because the window is about halfway up and it would have blocked that. So what he's saying is not correct. Why is he saying that? I don't know. This appeared to me a fairly high-powered rifle because of the scope and the relative portion of the scope to the rifle. So, again, how could you see a scope with a man standing when the window frame is blocking that section? Later, Roland saw another man with a rifle at the east end of the building, the one that where the shots were fired from. So, what he's saying is he's seeing a man on the opposite end, on the west end, the dark, not the dark complexion man, a Negro. Then he's seeing another man. Later on, saw another man with a rifle on the east end of the building, the one that where the shots were fired from. He added that the man was black, about 55 years old, practically bald, thin, very thin. Picture of the sixth floor. So again, That's obviously not Oswald. But it was from Roland's description that they put out the APB was the reason that Tippett pulled over Oswald. Okay, pulled up to Oswald. So, my photo is not showing up here. Let's see if we can pull it up. Hold on one second. So, where are they getting this description of Oswald to pull it up? All right. So maybe we have a picture here of the window. Right there. And we got about 5 minutes. So that's the sixth floor. Is that the sixth floor? Right there. The black guys were down here. Now what he's saying is that he's seeing a approximately 55-year-old black man holding a rifle over here and another man here. So Roland is down here. You know where that fountain was where the little girl was at? That's where Roland was at. So when he's looking up, how can he see anybody standing holding a rifle at all? Because the boxes are stacked up here, the window frame is there. You can barely see anyone. Doesn't make any sense. All right. So here's the statement by Roland that is on Spartacus. Let's take a look at that. Oh no, this is about Roland. Hold on a second. We'll read this and I think we'll be done. It said Arnold Roland was born in Corpus Christi, Texas, on 29 April 1945. After graduating from high school in June of 1963, wow, he was just 18. Roland found employment in Oregon. This included work as shipping clerk and clothes salesman. He later returned to Texas, where he became involved in promotional advertising. In 1963, Roland was working as a part-time pizza maker at the Pizza Inn in Dallas. He was also attending classes at W.H. Adamson High School. He's back in high school at 20 years old. Oh, I'm sorry, he's 18. On 22 November 1963, Roland and his wife, Barbara, wow, he's married already, went into Dallas to see the visit of President John Kennedy. Roland stood at the west entrance of the Dallas County Records Building on Houston Street, about 150 feet from the sixth floor of the school book depository. At 12:15, Roland said he saw a man with a high-powered rifle standing about 5 feet from the southwest corner on the other side of the building from the sniper's net, where it was argued that Lee Harvey Oswald fired his rifle. So we've seen someone on the opposite side there, okay? He told the Warren Commission, I noticed on the sixth floor of the building, there was a man back from the window, not hanging out the window. He was standing holding a rifle. This appeared to me to be a high-powered rifle because of the scope and relative portion of the scope of the rifle. So how come they're not looking for this black guy that he talks about? Later, Roland saw another man with a rifle on the east end of the building, the one that they had said the shots had been fired from. He added the man was black, about 55 years old, practically bald, and very thin. So how come the police weren't looking for a 55-year-old bald black man? Doesn't make any fucking sense, right? They immediately chime in on Oswald. Anyway, all right, so that's it for now. I'm going to pick up another one here and we'll keep going. All right, take care.